Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Well, guys, ever since my last stream right before the weekly close, we basically set our bottom while streaming. I even mentioned that we had retested basically our little 115 fib here for a potential reversal, and it just so happened to be the bottom for now anyways. Nothing from my macro analysis on the weekly has really changed, as I still think the weekly chart has some big hurdles ahead. However, anything is possible. And there's also some nice bullish signs taking shape with Bitcoin. So with that, let's actually hop right over to my 4-hour to start here, you guys. A couple of things to mention here is that we do have potential resistance coming up fairly soon here. Right now, I don't have too big of concerns on the lower time frames like this. If I bring up the trend master, we do still, I think we're testing, basically right around resistance of that indicator on the 4-hour right now, which is something worth mentioning, because especially the fact that we did actually take out our higher buy signal that we had here on the 4-hour, even though it was very briefly, we did actually end up breaking that. So that is a bit of a warning shot, and so far testing the sell signal, basically the sell signal resistance for that. On top of that, you guys, just looking at the market structure for what it is on its own, we do on this 4-hour swing, we have our low here and we have this lower low here. The highest point between the two is right here, right at about 91.2K. So that would be my lower high resistance of the current 4-hour trend. But that being said, even where did we get our last push to the downside, which ended up pushing us below this this support here, is actually this little guy here, this little green doji here. So I'm just going to make a box there as well. And notice where we are currently facing a little bit of resistance. I personally don't think that one's going to hold, but it's just worth mentioning since it does also line up with that MDX Trendmaster resistance. But just the fact that we have come this high, I see no reason why we wouldn't end up testing at least the bearish STUBER fib on the 4-hour here, which basically starts around 90K with our invalidation for that bearish STUBER up above, well, basically 92K. Above 92K would invalidate that. That being said, you guys, a few things why I think that Bitcoin's not in such bad shape is we are getting closer to my support levels. You guys know that I've been wanting some sort of a bullish retest, a retest of my STUBER fibs ever since setting our lows back here. Since setting that low and setting this high here, we obviously have not tested those support zones yet. So it's still possible that we do see a bigger move to the downside, but obviously we're going to have to see what happens, because the shorter time frame so far still not getting any red flags that are all too serious at this point. But that being said, guys, for those of you who are interested in seeing way more examples of how I'm looking at market structure in general, some of my trade setups, strategies, and so on, be sure to scan the QR code to gain access to my Telegram. And also, you guys, my partners at Blowfin are currently running this new promo for you guys, new and existing members in my group here. They will be running this promo for approximately a week. You can see that it wraps up on February 2nd there. So if that interests you with some of those bonuses, you can scan to gain access to the promo as well as my free Telegram, you guys. And that being said, you guys, there is something forming in the background here. I know for those of you who think, oh, maybe I'm not posting as much in the Telegram as I have been in the past, there is something big going behind the scenes. So I am excited. There is something coming for Stu Signals members. Those of you guys in the Telegram, there is something coming to you guys fairly soon. I'm hoping to be able to announce it in approximately the next week or so. But yeah, very excited. So those of you who are excited to hear what I have to say on that, make sure you do me a favor, hit that like button. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, if you just like looking at market structure for what it is. But yeah, very excited to go over this with you guys when I can say a little more for you guys. So be on the lookout for that in these live streams as well as in the Telegram channel. So super exciting there. But yeah, looking at the 4-hour, what else can we look at here, you guys? Trendmaster already went over that. Liquidations here, guys. Let's look at some liquidation levels. I do get a little bit of mixed signals from this indicator here, basically showing that we could, in theory, go either direction here. There is plenty of liquidity to the downside. There's plenty of liquidity to the upside. So as far as market makers go, I still think it's very possible that either could happen. Now, one thing to consider is there is a lot of liquidations down here right in that bigger Stuber fib pocket and right down to double bottom territory, right? So all that liquidity down here, although it's lower leverage because it's the blue bars, I believe that's 5 to 10x leverage liquidation levels. But notice that those do line up very well with my support levels. Now, on the other side of things, and why I think it's still quite likely that we can push higher before a bigger correction, is, you know, a lot of these liquidations to the upside, there's a lot more orange, yellow, gold bars. This is all higher leverage stuff up here, and it actually lines up with the same thing, looking for the opposite, looking for a bearish fib pull. And you can see a lot of this liquidity actually lines up in my purple resistance box up here, and then another cluster basically going up to my red swing fail pocket. So there is liquidity at basically both sides of things, right? If we start going to the downside, then I would assume that we would end up grabbing most of this liquidity. Whereas if we start going to the upside, especially if we can invalidate this bearish trend here, this lower high on the 4-hour trend, at that point, I think it makes a lot of sense that we'd grab some of this higher leverage liquidity up, liquidations up there. As well, you guys, on the CME chart, we do still have this little gap up here that I was talking about. Actually, on Sunday's stream, I was mentioning that just how the price action was happening, we were likely going to form a gap, or maybe we even had it at that point already. I can't remember for sure. But I had mentioned that we would likely come up and fill it, and you can see that we have done that, right? So that is one target reached from the bounce there. We do still have the CME gap up here, which actually runs to about 93K. And at that point, although that could be grounds for a reversal if we end up filling that gap. However, once again, I think it's quite likely that we would actually push a little bit higher just because the resistance of this range has not been retested yet. So that's just another something to watch for there. Looking at the weekly chart, if you want a more in-depth view of how I feel about the weekly chart, I mean, nothing with my opinions have really changed on that. And really, a lot of it was just theoretical that, you know, something to watch for if things start aligning and we start going into a deeper correction, some things to expect there. But if you want more of my thoughts on my macro view, go back and watch Sunday's live stream. That should be my last live stream, basically. But looking at the weekly for what it is, you guys, I had mentioned on Sunday, I had big concerns about this, the fact that we were closing a very large bearish engulfing candle on the weekly time frame. And as well, it actually ended up pushing us, well, easily below this little order block that we had here. This is basically where we formed support a couple weeks prior and pushing higher. We have just shattered that block. So I was mentioning on Sunday, and I still think that it's very possible that we have to watch for how we react to that box. And that basically runs from, well, actually up to about 91.5K. So I think it would actually make a lot of sense to go and grab that CME gap at about 93K, or even that higher Stuber fib that I was talking about, and seeing a rejection from there. It's still very possible. I would love to see us invalidate all that and start targeting some more macro resistance levels, you know, up above 100K, but obviously one thing at a time. So there's just, as far as the macro goes, looking at the weekly chart here, I just think the bulls have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of hurdles ahead just because this was a very nasty weekly candle that we had yesterday. That being said, if we can engulf it right back this week and Sunday we close somewhere above this wick here, even above the candle close, I think that would be a great sign of strength, but we're going to have to see what happens there. I want to look at the retail long short indicator as well. I checked this out right before starting the stream here, you guys. One thing that I am noticing, to me, it looks like retail is starting to build some shorts. You can see, just looking at it from a basic market structure point of view, basically how we have, well, it's very close. I think if we, let's just really zoom in here, but you can see that we have actually broke above this little structure here. That is very, very micro analyzing on an indicator, not even the price itself, but an indicator. But to me, it does look like retail is starting to build some sort of short exposure here and basically FOMOing into shorts at support, right? We're getting very close to the bottom of our range here, and retail is getting scared and trying to short into that support. So if this continues to climb here, that would be a great sign for the bulls. And in that case, I absolutely think that we hit some of those other targets that I was talking about. But as long as retail continues building shorts, that's just rocket fuel. If retail continues to try and short heavily and we see this explode to the upside, I would expect the price to do the exact same, just absolutely destroying retail traders, basically. I do want to zoom into the hourly chart. Let's just get a closer look. And you can see it here as well, right? We basically, and I was talking about this last stream as well, that, yeah, we had a lot of retail longs in the market, but eventually that's going to end up flipping to the other side. And so far, it looks like longs are dropping and shorts are starting to build. So if that continues, then I think the bulls are in relatively good shape, my friends. Let's hop over and check some altcoins. I had Solana as a request in the chat, you guys. Solana getting a very nice bounce here. I love to see it that it's respecting the STUBER fib setup so well here. Just looking at basic market structure for what it is. Here we had our lower high on the trend, right? Because we had this low, this lower low, lower high confirmed there. The fact that we had this high and here we got a higher high, that means that this is my confirmed low for a pivot basically at this point. So if you ended up taking this trade, I personally did not. But if you ended up taking this, you likely would have hit 3 of your entries for a typical STUBER fib setup with an average entry somewhere around the 886. And we're already making a nice push. We're halfway between the 786 and the first fib target, the 0.5 fib. So very nice move out of Solana there. As far as trying to find something a little more, like obviously this is in hindsight because it's already happened. So unfortunately, the move is already underway, in my opinion. But even just looking at the micro trend, basically I would be looking at this level holding, just because looking at how we are staircasing higher currently, basically this would have been where we got our pause. That's where we got a high set here. And we have obviously set a higher high. So this would be the lowest point between the two. So as long as, you know, there's no other consolidation forming, anything like that, basically at the current time, the higher low on that 4-hour trend would be approximately $123. So as long as Solana can continue staircasing higher, just like it did here, right? We had our little pause, but then we pushed higher, confirming this as our higher low. Then we never did invalidate that, right? We never did come and break that. So we set a new higher high, and that's why we have this new white line here. So as long as Solana can continue staircasing higher like that, looking absolutely fantastic. As far as indicators, if anything, I would assume they're just starting to flip, but there would be no obvious trends or anything like that. Yeah, we're just starting to get above the sell signal, but no new buy signal, nothing like that. But yeah, as far as basic market structure goes, I think Solana's in a okay position, and especially if, like I was talking about with Bitcoin, if Bitcoin can continue to climb, sorry, getting tongue-tied, that would be great for the altcoins as well, obviously. One that really grabbed my attention today, you guys, and for a couple of reasons, is Hype. Hype has seen an absolutely explosive move. This is something that I've been warning about in the past, you guys. I was talking about it on many altcoins, how basically we have that large wick from October 10th, right? Just like back here, Hype was no different. It has that big wick. And I said quite often, those wicks tend to fill. If you can end up filling that wick and then, or even dropping below it and then reclaiming it, that can be a beautiful bullish sign for the market. And Hype is a perfect example here. Unfortunately, I did not catch that. I am really kicking myself about that right now, but there's a lot of altcoins that could, in theory, still end up doing that. A lot of altcoins have not filled that gap, or filled that wick rather, same thing. Well, actually not exactly, but there's a lot of other altcoins that have not, and not saying that they all have to do this, but it's one of those things that maybe it's not such a bad idea to set an alert on those types of trend lines. or just more so support lines or resistance if it was flipped, obviously. But yeah, just a beautiful case of a swing fail setup right there. Obviously, nowhere close to a 115 invalidation, but even just looking at it for just a very, very tight stop loss for that type of a setup in the future is basically, losing this line, losing this support, reclaiming it, leave a little wiggle room for a stop loss, something like that. Very tight stop loss for the size of potential move on something like that. Because what did hype end up moving? Basically, since reclaiming that line, hype has basically pumped over 40%. Not even basically, it just has pumped over 40% since finding that bottom. So absolutely phenomenal price action there. Absolutely love to see it, you guys. I have not caught up with the chat yet. However, I am going to check out the S&P 500 because I know one of our members loves when I look at the SPX as well as silver. So just going to take a quick glance here for you, my friend. Looking at the daily chart on both, the S&P mixed signals once again obviously has a very strong uptrend. However, we are technically at resistance, and we are at resistance after losing a higher low on the trend. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to end up in a reversal, just because, well, actually, technically, we got one up here as well. But if we just look at this as our high, higher low, we obviously broke that level. So now we've even filled this gap. We're back up at resistance. So it's just time to be careful that basically, the stock market in general is technically at resistance for a retest. But overall, you guys, this is in such a strong uptrend. I mean, even if I bring up the trend master on the daily chart here. Oh, you want me to look at gold too? After looking at these two for you? No, that's totally fine. I will absolutely. I did plan on looking at gold as well. But yeah, just looking at this daily trend, you guys, even though we did technically broke some structure and we are at resistance, at least we do have this very, very strong uptrend from this indicator, and it's still holding on. We ended up losing it here as well. Never flipped into a sell signal or anything, just like here, we keep reclaiming it even after breaking some structure. So at this point, I don't really want to bet against that. It's just always okay to be cautious and respect resistance when you get to it especially after a structure break like that. Silver, just absolutely on a moon mission still, you guys. As far as the daily, this is still kind of the level I'm looking at, would be down closer to $90, just because of how this structure has shaped up. We have this little consolidation here, and we've obviously set a higher high here. So our low point between the two is this purple line right here. Now, depending how you want to look at things, I know a lot of people consider candle body closes a lot more, just carry a lot more weight than wicks. And I myself have to agree with that. But just looking at it for what it is, if we're looking for candle bodies, then technically we may end up, this would basically be the level that I want to see hold if we're going to hold a strong uptrend. If we come back down to this level with that purple line, still not necessarily the end of the world, but I would love to see us hold above this white line that's currently at close to $102. So absolutely beautiful. And also, I'm assuming if I hop over to the 4 hour, that's actually where we have potential support on the 4 hour. My concerns with that is, much like the S&P, we do technically have a little break there, right? With our higher low, we broke that, and we are currently retesting resistance basically. But once again, just like the S&P, and even more so because this thing is on such a parabolic moon mission here, is that once again, bringing up indicators, we're just going to see a very obvious trend to the upside. I can almost guarantee, yeah, just a beautiful buy trend, this purple line here on the 4 hour. And obviously the daily will look very similar. I'm assuming it's going to be, yeah, basically lining up with that daily support level that I was talking about, actually trying to catch up to it more so. So yeah, a lot of assets like silver, gold is most likely going to be the same. I'll take a look at it in a minute here. The S&P, just the stock market in general, there's a lot of strength in those markets still. So With that being said, let us take a look at gold real quick here. Haven't looked at this one for a while. Yeah, we never did come back down and get that retest on the gold fib that I had mapped out, unfortunately. But yeah, gold just in a beautiful uptrend as well. On the daily, oh, geez. I mean, one thing to consider is there is a gap down here. We may end up coming to fill that, and as well, that would technically come back. This is our higher low on this trend. God, what a parabolic move. This gold is just insane right now. I mean, has been for quite a while, but just an absolutely insane run, you guys. But yeah, basically, as long as we're holding above our higher low here, but obviously that's a big correction. That's about, what, 10%? That's a 12, 13% move to the downside. If we end up retesting that support level, that's an absolutely huge volatile move for an asset like gold. So I don't know if we're going to get it. Looking at the 4 hour, we have something a lot closer, more something like this, just because this was our higher high, confirmed higher low. So as long as gold can stay basically above 49.93, let's call it 49.90. That is the higher low that I would love to see. But again, just like the others, I'm assuming if we bring up the MDX Trendmaster on the 4 hour, on the daily, we are going to see a very aggressive uptrend that is just more additional confluence, right? So even if we come back down to the support level here, still technically have a little bit of support below us, just slightly lower as well, but just nice to have that additional confluence there for support. On the daily, I assume it'll be very similar. It's probably, yeah, it's lagging quite a bit, trying to catch up here, curling to the upside. So very similar. Either way, just an absolutely beautiful uptrend on all those assets, my friends. Guys, I hope you are all doing fantastic. I hope you're all surviving and thriving in these markets. If so, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you just like looking at charts for what they are and trading the charts for what they are, rather than the FOMO and the hopium and the FUD and all that sort of stuff, taking it one trade setup at a time, do me a favor. Like I said, hit that thumbs up, subscribe. And guys, I love to see so many familiar faces, names anyways, in here. Love to see so many of you guys showing up each and every day that I do a stream. I seriously appreciate you, my friends. So thumbs up to you guys as well. Hype, yeah, I already covered that one. So long, nice. Thoughts on near? That's an interesting one. I will take a look at near yet. I did have interest in checking that one out as well. Ooh, interesting. Near has a very interesting chart right now, and I love the look of it. For one, we filled that wick. Actually, we already had that happen once. We filled that October 10th wick, reclaimed it. And we got a 26% move to the upside. Having a hard time hanging on to that level, but at the same time, I don't know if it looks all too bad. Honestly, the way I see it is that we have a potential STUBER fib here, right? We are just right in the middle between a 786 and an 886 right now. We have already tested the double bottom territory. So as long as this can stay basically above $1.33, $1.34, that would be still looking fantastic to me. So yeah, I love that near is actually sitting in a support level right now. That's on the daily chart, you guys. That is quite beautiful in my opinion. So we do have potential resistance from the MDX Trendmaster. We have the sell signal here just above us, so that is something to pay attention to. That being said, it is a higher sell signal, right? So I would love to see us end up reclaiming that and flipping this into a new buy signal. That would be a very nice confirmation, in my opinion, that near is going to make a nice move to the upside once again. Are we getting an alt season in Q1 2026? I hope so. I would love to see it. I don't want to be that guy who promises that every single day, saying that, oh, altcoin season starts now. I don't want to be that guy. I still have my concerns about some of the macro outlooks on Bitcoin and stuff like that. But even if Bitcoin has topped, I've mentioned this many times, I still think it's very possible that altcoins would get a very nice move in the market still. Anyways, guys, quick one. What are originally the numbers on my fib coming from? Like the 786886. Those are just some fibs that I've used in the past and just kind of developed my own strategy around them. The 214 comes from being the opposite 786, for example. But I'm not sure if that's what you mean, where the 786, 886 came from. Just fairly common fibs that I've seen in the past and just kind of adopted rather into my strategies. Do I think it's plausible that copper gains will mimic silver and gold? Honestly, I don't know. I don't think I've ever looked at a copper chart. That's very similar to the whole, is Bitcoin going to mimic silver and gold and that sort of thing? It really depends. I think it's absolutely possible because it's another precious metal. It's used for physical things, right? But I would want to see the chart actually trending and starting some sort of a beautiful uptrend. I'm not going to bring up that chart right now, but maybe next stream I will. I have a positive outlook on BTC Ethereum, but not so much moon boy attitude. Yeah, exactly. I would love to see Ethereum really start drastically outperforming Bitcoin again. That would be great to see. That would be a good sign for all altcoins, as well as if the Bitcoin dominance starts to roll over. Am I opening a new short on the 90 to 92K range this time? Good question. Let me hop back to the 4-hour chart. In this STUBER fib here. If I open up a short in that, I want to see some sort of confirmation in the lower time frames. So basically, if we end up inside or testing the 786 or whatever, getting some sort of a reaction here, I would still want to see some sort of a confirmation on the 5-minute chart, for example, lose a micro high or low on the 5-minute, matching up with my 4-hour resistance, something like that. In that case, I would be willing to stab at a short on that again. But really, guys, I do think that the price can push higher, but yeah, it is technically a trade setup, and I'd still be interested in it as long as I have those confirmations on the shorter time frame, just so I can also keep my stop loss a lot closer on the shorter time frames and whatnot as well, rather than just blind setting some laddered entries into this 4-hour setup that I'm not super confident on right now. So see how that goes. Maybe a BTC breakout on the 1 hour before I end my stream. It's trying to set some new structure here. I'd love to see it end up breaking above this level, and then we'd have a new higher low on the immediate trend, right? But we'll see. And even if we do that, we do still technically have that resistance getting very close. So just got to be careful when we start getting to those resistance levels is all. But anyways, my friends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So one last time, if you appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And again, guys, just a reminder for those of you interested in learning, seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, how I use Fibonacci's, market structure, just give more of my thoughts on the market in general. Do yourselves a favor and get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen. And as I mentioned, my partners at Blowfin are currently giving you guys this special promo for the next week or so. And guys, as I mentioned, the most exciting part yet, in my opinion, is the fact that something is happening behind the scenes, and there is something new coming to the Stu Signals members. Those of you guys in my Telegram, there's something exciting coming up, hopefully in the next week or so. I will keep you guys posted, but that is something to be on the watch out for as well. And yeah, looking forward to the announcement on stream as well. And with that, my friends, thank you so much for being here with me once again. I appreciate each and every one of you. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends.